All right, welcome into the first of our 2021 Goaties panel discussions here. And we're doing things a little bit differently this year. Instead of revealing who the winner is shortly after this discussion, you're going to have two options. You can either, one, come to the bar on Saturday, January 29th, where we will be revealing the winners live, or you can tune in right here on YouTube 2 days later on Monday the 31st to see the winners then. So we're going to start here with Newcomer of the Year. And Jesse, you're not actually eligible since you already were at DNVR.
Well, then I'm out. I'm out of here.
Yeah, you're not eligible. But we do have a couple great candidates here for Newcomer of the Year. We've got Mace here to talk about Pat Surtain. We do have Jesse here to talk a little bit about Devon Toews. And we, of course, have Vote here to talk about the Silver Surfer, right?
That's right. Aaron Gordon, as everyone knows, the Silver Surfer.
All right. Mace, let's start with you here and Pat Surtain.
Yeah, it's funny because with Surtain, I think I was a little bit of the skeptic of our group because a lot of people are like, oh, he's the next Champ Bailey, next Champ Bailey. I'm like, okay, let's wait and see. I'm not going to say he's the next Champ Bailey because that's like a top 10 all-time corner. That's
First
still,
ballot Hall of Fame.
Right. That's still a bit high to put on him. I can definitely say that he is the next generational cornerback in Denver.
Wow.
And what's crazy about him, just to add in a little bit, is like his mannerisms and even like his swag on the field is very Champ Bailey-esque, which like just makes it even harder to tell people to pump the brakes on that. And then, of course, he goes out and he should have been a Pro Bowler, in my opinion, in his rookie season. And it's like, yeah, I can't really tell you guys to pump the brakes on Pat Surtain. Like, go crazy.
Yeah. I mean, only a 61.8 passer rating when he was targeted.
And I think,
and he shut, and also he became that shutdown corner. People remember the pick six against the Chargers. For me, the signature performance is going against Jamar Chase. Most of the game, Chase having a rookie season that might have been the best for any receiver since Randy Moss back in '98, and one catch, 3 yards.
And that wasn't on Pat Surtain.
Right.
When Pat Surtain was matched up on Jamar Chase, not only did he have 0 catches, he had 0 targets.
Yes.
So Joe Burrow just said, yeah, sorry, Jamar, we're not going this way.
I mean, that's a lockdown corner, right? That a quarterback looks at someone like Surtain and says, I'm just not going to bother testing him. I'm not worrying about that. That's one side of the field gone. I'm going to focus on the rest of it. And that's the kind of corner that you are looking for, that you crave if you're building a team. And that is what Champ Bailey was. Because at his peak, opponent after opponent simply said, I'm not even going to bother with that side of the field. And that's why Bailey went from a guy who had double-digit interceptions, I believe, in 2006, to someone who barely saw the ball in his direction for most of the years that followed. And that is one thing with Surtain that'll be interesting to watch because we know how great a cover corner he is, but part of that is going to be he's not going to have many chances to get his hands on the ball because we're going to see more games like the one that he had against Jamar Chase where simply the quarterback ignores him. But that's a big thing. If you have one guy who can take away one flank of the field, makes it easier to defend the rest of it. I mean, Surtain, he wasn't a Pro Bowler. He should have been. I think it'll happen pretty soon for him.
It will happen soon. Either of you guys, any original impressions of watching Pat Surtain this year?
Well, I just love the point that Mace made because I think defensive backs can be, depending on the broadcast, crew or your perspective on football, almost like a referee. Like you had a really good day because we didn't talk about you because your matchup wasn't highlighted because it was taken away. And so I just think it's going to be the kind of thing where as he gets better and better and you move further away from what the roster construction looked like at the time that he was drafted, where people may have an even easier time saying, great pick.
Yeah. Well, and to your point of you wanted to start telling people, well, hold on, pump the brakes, and you always have to do that when especially rookies come in to the league, come to a new team, and you see those flashes. It's so easy to get kind of carried away, but then suddenly you get to the end of the season and it's not flashes, it's who they are. And I think that was, for me as someone who doesn't, I'm not on the Broncos beat obviously, but that was a conversation that you kept hearing all year is, wow, this kid's really showing, some flashes. Wow, he looks really good. To the end of the year where I'm with you. I don't know why he wasn't a Pro Bowler because he played at that level consistently. And it's impressive when any rookie can do that, let alone in a starting role and kind of, to your point, have the attention taken off him because they played their position so efficiently.
Yeah, one thing I like for him, and we'll wrap up here, is he's going to get his shine. Like, Mace remembers this, and Zach, we were like pounding the table all of Chris Harris Jr.'s career to be like, give this guy his shine. That's because he's an undrafted free agent. He didn't have a name. He came from KU. Pat Surtain's the opposite, right? Everyone knows his dad. He comes from Alabama. He's a first-round pick. Like, it won't take long for the nation to wise up to who he is. All right, let's move on here to Devon Toews.
Yeah, for me, this is he's different than Pat Surtain because he's not a rookie, right? He came in, and he when Joe Sakic acquired him for 2 second-round picks, which you look back on it now, and it's I can't believe. I mean, you talk so much about the Matt Duchene trade that yielded 7 pieces, being there's the best trade of Joe Sakic's tenure. Well, then just a couple years later, he turns around and trades 2 second-round picks for Devon Toews, who has turned into an elite number 1 defenseman in the NHL. It's easy for him to get overshadowed because he plays on a team that's just, it's littered with superstars. And his defensive pairing, Cale Makar, is carving out a path. Cale Makar hasn't even played a full season. He's carving out a path to be in that conversation for greatest defenseman of all time. So Devon Toews can get kind of overlooked. But if you go back and look at Devon Toews' tenure now, a season and a little bit less than a half with the Avs, he is a top 3 defenseman by every statistical measure. He drives play at an elite rate, but he suppresses shots in his own end at an equally elite rate. As good as Cale Makar is, there's a great chance that Devon Toews is the best 200-foot defenseman on the Avs right now, currently. Wow. He plays both ends of the ice as efficiently as, you mentioned Champ Bailey. Yeah. I'm not quite ready to put Devon Toews' number up to Ray Bork's, but he's playing at that type of level in terms of offensive production. He's over a point per game player. But when you look at his advanced metrics, he gives up almost nothing in his own end. And his ability to move play up ice, he was a really good player with the New York Islanders. His play is just a picture-perfect fit for the way that the Avs play, the types of players they have. And he really has. He's come in and taken over as a number 1 defenseman in the NHL. Had the NHL gone to the Olympics, I firmly believe he would have been on Team Canada, which is easily the best roster at the Olympics. Any of those best-on-best tournaments, he would have absolutely been in that conversation. Last year, he came in as an under-the-radar Norris candidate for best defenseman in the NHL. He received some votes, and if you were to ask people to vote honestly right now and take the biases out from, you get to play next to Cale Makar, I think the Avs would have 2 defensemen right now that legitimately fall into the top 3, at worst the top 5 in Norris voting right now, and he's up there. And he's just completely transformed the way the Avs look. They're 22-3-2 with him in the lineup this year.
Insane. Wow. It's funny because he sort of has that Champ Bailey, Pat Surtain thing that you're talking about where when they're playing at their best, they're not necessarily jumping off the page 100%. At you. A lot of it, obviously, on defense, you just shut down your side of the ice and whatever. That guy's not making plays. But also, Devon Toews isn't necessarily scoring like flashy, spinny goals, like that sort of thing. He is one of those guys who just goes out there, does his job every night, doesn't make mistakes, and you leave the game looking at the box score or whatever, saying, "Oh yeah, another one from Toews."
Another one from Toews. He plays on the penalty kill. He plays on the power play. And he leads their team in ice time on most nights at 5-on-5. So he does it in every situation. And to your point, there are so many plays that would be really dangerous plays against that he just gobbles up and turns the other way. And they look like nothing plays, but it's because of how efficiently he transitions from defense to offense.
Now, let me ask you this. He leads the league, as we record this, leads the league in plus-minus.
Yep.
Plus 33. And you talk about Makar. It's kind of a chicken and egg thing. So who makes who better? Does Toews make Makar better, or does Makar make Toews better?
So, cop-out answer, it's a little bit of both. They complement each other so well, but when you step back and look, the Avs went 4-5-1 in their 10 games without Devon Toews this season. Cale Makar played in some of those games. Cale Makar is he's a very good defender. He's better than he gets credit for, but there's just something transformative about the way that Devon Toews plays. He almost kind of allows Cale Makar to be Cale Makar because he can jump up into the play and make some of those flashier plays because you have maybe the most reliable defenseman in the league right now standing, to your left. And so the honest answer is it's a little bit of both, but you can absolutely make the argument, and I would, that Cale Makar can be who he is because he's got Devon Toews and just that reliability on most shifts.
You're singing his praise now, but is unsung hero a fair moniker for him to the Avs' success? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, he coming into this season, people were like, "Oh yeah, Devon Toews could maybe be," when they thought the NHLers were going to the Olympics, like, maybe that's a guy in the conversation for like the 8th defenseman, not even the first injury replacement. And by the time they had canceled, NHL participation, he had started to climb those ranks to know he's solidly in that top 6, but just where. And again, he will always go unsung because he plays next to such an electric player in Cale Makar. But in my opinion right now, he's the most underrated defenseman in the NHL.
Wow. Tie a bow on this with this question, the question that a lot of people have. Can they keep him around?
Well, that's the other part that makes him. He's on an unbelievably team-friendly deal for 2 more years. So at this rate, probably not. He will go get a very nice payday from someone who's going to make him their number one, which he is kind of here. But it does kind of ramp up the importance of this window that the Avs are in. You've got McKinnon on the team-friendly deal, and you've got Devon Toews on your team-friendly deal. So you have your number one center and a very important piece to your top pairing defense on very team-friendly deals for a couple more seasons. So maybe because his fit is so nice, you'd maybe see him take a discount to stay playing next to a guy like Makar. But they've got a real chance to bring home some hardware given the deal that he's on.
Speaking of bringing home hardware, the main reason this next guy was brought here was to help the Nuggets bring home some hardware. Obviously, things kind of went awry after it, but I guess let's start with Aaron Gordon in that small window there where everything came together.
Didn't it look like the very last piece the Nuggets were missing? And so much talent, not necessarily a ton of defensive prowess or versatility. Aaron Gordon, a guy who we're learning not just good at defense, but versatile. He's taken point of attack guys in Trae Young. He's taken big, strong wings. He provides an answer to a question Denver hasn't had even in the Jokic era. How do you guard the LeBrons, the Kawhis, the Lukas? So even just on paper, you go, okay, that's sweet. But then the way he fit into everything they were trying to do offensively in that short window that Arcade just mentioned, it's not a secret. Executives, media members around the league were circling Denver as maybe the favorite to win the title that year as a healthy team. We've come a long way since then. In that time, Aaron Gordon's proved to be a bit amorphous, malleable.
Yes.
He's right now, he's not just that defensive piece. As we saw last night, has to be Jokic's Robin to Jokic's Batman sometimes. Yeah. And he can do that. And then the final layer, guys, off the court, the way he's embraced being in Denver, signed that extension early. Just last night calls Jokic the best player in the world, playing with a smile on his face every day. Consider this, it was a no-brainer deal, but they did send fan favorite Gary Harris out. All that much easier to swallow because Aaron Gordon is a Denver Nugget through and through already.
And you got to love that about him. And that's from day one. He was like, Denver's kind of underrated. You remember that? And it's so great to have him. And one thing that I feel like is so interesting about this whole mix is obviously it completely sucks that you lose Jamal Murray.
Of course.
But Jokic, the level that he's taken his game to since Jamal Murray, like Jamal Murray never got to play with this Jokic.
Right.
That's going to happen. And Aaron Gordon has developed nicely as well. I think Jokic does that to everyone, makes them a little bit better, but he's becoming so much better than that guy that was even part of that championship caliber team that we saw for whatever it was, 8 games. That's what excites me most about this Nuggets team right now is like everyone's elevating their roles, and then you're going to add a superstar guard to this at some point, plus MPJ.
I'll take it a step further. I think Aaron Gordon is now hitting a level. He's helping Jokic get better. He's making Jokic a better player. And they have a chemistry right now that by necessity has really risen and elevated to it would be a heavy reliance on Jamal Murray, as it should be if he were here, and even Porter. Now it's been, okay, what can Gordon do with Jokic? So much time on the court together, looking for each other, and you're seeing that bear fruit. These guys make each other better, and I can't remember a game Aaron Gordon's played in Denver where we haven't seen him flash a huge smile.
Really quick, I just want to add to the chemistry thing that you
Sure.
said. I saw an alternate angle from the stands of the awesome game winner he had the other night. And the craziest part to me is Jokic is 40 feet away from Aaron Gordon. He's in shooting position. He's expecting that ball to come from him out of the double team all the way. Like, it's not like he was surprised when he saw the thing. He's like, all right, this is coming to me. I'm going to have to make this game winner. Ready for it. Sunk it.
So, kind of piggybacking off the Makar-Taves conversation, we're seeing Jokic obviously go to a crazy level this year. How much of that is being buoyed by the fact that he's got a guy like Aaron Gordon?
Important to note that Jokic is just reaching God tiers
Right,
levels.
yeah.
Like you could throw me on the court and I might look okay, but I do think some of it is he hasn't had this look, this dynamic in Denver. Any sort of Jokic-Gordon pick and roll, no matter which way you flip it, looks like something you see that succeed and you're like, they should run that all game. He is an above the rim athlete, but he's also big and strong and formidable. And so it's kind of, there's a bit of the Fareed dynamic, but a more complete player, I think. And so Jokic getting to play like a guy like that, we'll see it more when Porter and Murray come back, if Porter does. It's just matchup problems. Like, how do you deal with this much size and this much skill? And Gordon definitely contributes to that.
Now, when Jamal does come back and MPJ does come back, this chemistry that Jokic and Aaron Gordon have developed, how does that get maintained when all of a sudden you've got the team that you intended to build, but clearly Jokic and Gordon have become something more together than perhaps we thought they could when this trade was made?
It's a great question, and I think the top thing you can credit AG for in his Denver tenure is sort of figuring out, what do they need from me? And not only that, embracing whatever role that may be. That stretch RK brought up last year when they looked so dominant, it was low usage Aaron Gordon. It was be our best defender, be our fifth best defensive player, tertiary playmaker, and he was happy to do it, no problem. So I have confidence that as things return, as order restores, Gordon is more than happy to be who he knows Denver needs.
Going to be fun to watch what happens when that comes back. Going to be fun to see who wins this. 3 really good candidates here. Obviously, the fans will have a vote. And like I said, we'd love to have you here at the DNVR bar Saturday, January 29th for our live reveal of the winners. If you can't make that, then we'll also be revealing them here on YouTube on Monday. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for voting.